Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. Glad to have you guys here on this Thursday, the 6th of May, 2021. What is the offset? Something I call the offset. I've dubbed it because there's not many people that actually know about it. Well, I'll tell you what it is. The biggest creators of money out there is not really the central bank, but it's the thousands, well, not thousands, but yeah, maybe thousands of banks across the country when they lend money out. It's the most genuine form of money creation. Is the creation of credit when the fractional reserve banking system creates a loan. And typically, when times are relatively good, there's a lot of loans being made across the country, and that's new money being created from nothing, from thin air, and PAM, it's into the system. Now it's still debt, but it's debt to these individual banks within the banking system. Tremendous money creator. And what happens in times like a crisis time like COVID? Well, all of a sudden what the banks do is they say, hey, you know what? No lending from us because interest rates are too low right now. We don't have enough qualified people to lend money to. And there's a crisis right now where businesses and everything are shutting down. And we're going to shut down too. And just like the economy shuts down, and they close everything up, the banks close up lending. Well, money creation suddenly stops. And this is huge, guys. It's really huge. And it has a profound effect upon the economy. And this stimulus, all this stimulus that we see, you say, well, it should cause instantaneous hyperinflation. Well, it doesn't because of an offset. The offset is the switch has been turned off on the regular bank lending. So the stimulus comes along. Well, the stimulus can offset the lack of regular bank lending that creates money. It can offset that, and it can do more than offset that. It can make up for it plus. But you have to understand that offset against the stimulus is going to mean that the stimulus is not going to have as great an effect as it would have in creating inflation. So while the COVID epidemic was going and ongoing, and we saw Jerome Powell going into stimulus package after stimulus package, right? It was offset to a certain degree while the coronavirus was going through. And so it didn't have as great an effect at creating inflation as it would have. But still, I figure it was offset by about maybe, considering the amount. Now, you have to understand the amounts of money are exorbitantly large from the stimulus packages. So, first 2.2 trillion and then 0.9 trillion and then 1.9 trillion and then another one and another one that just kept coming. It starts to mount up into like 7-8 trillion dollars. That's more than the fractional reserve lending system would have lent out during that same period in time. But it's offset to a certain degree. Now, what happens when the economy starts to heat up again? And you remember all those businesses that closed? What happens? Well, the economy starts to open up. And if there was a pizzeria on the corner, there's a reason why they put the pizzeria on the corners, because they used to get business there. People wanted to buy a pizza, and there's a lot of business traffic in that particular location, and so they put the pizzeria on the corner, and the first original guy that opened it, he got a loan from the bank or whatever. So he's all of a sudden, he's went out of business. And thousands of more people like him, clothing stores, you name it, all across the country. And people were buying online on Amazon instead, But now the country starts to open back up again. Well, those places and those businesses are still there. It's just that they got a sign on the front door that says closed. Out of business. So what happens is, new people come along and they eye that location and they say, I'm going to open that back up again. The new person. So they go to the bank, and the bank checks and sees if they're qualified. Now, what banks will do is when banks start to lend out and they see the economy starting to, they see the virus going away and they see the economy starting to pick up, all of a sudden banks decide, hey, we can open our doors too, just like everybody out there is starting to open their doors and breathe fresh air and say, hey, the virus is leaving, things are starting to go back to normal. Well, the same way with the banks. And now, at the same time, we got a curious thing happening. The Fed is worried about inflation. And so they're very likely to sit back there and say, well, gee, instead of us announcing we're going to raise interest rates and stuff and knocking the window of the market, let's just let these yields on the long end of the yield curve slowly creep up. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if they do that, if they just stand back and let the yields on the long end start to creep up, especially the 10-year. It wouldn't surprise me a bit, right? So meanwhile, you get the banks out there, and all of a sudden the economy's starting to pick up. People are seeing new ventures, new businesses, new opportunities, and the banks see the yields on interest rates are starting to climb a little bit higher so that they can see a small profit margin again for the first time in a long time. Coming up in a few months from now. What do you think's going to happen, guys? The banks are going to start, and they see that small profit margin again. Remember, before there wasn't hardly any profit to lending, so they tightened lending standards and everything. What do you think's going to happen? They're going to start lending money out again. And you know how much spin-offs come from that? So the new guy, he goes in, the old pizza business is closed down, the windows are signs on the windows are out of business and everything else. He goes into the bank, he gets his loan, because now the bank's seeing profit again. So he goes in, he needs a new pizza oven. He has to hire that out to another company and everything else with this new money he got from the bank, and he hires a renovation into the restaurant, and next thing you know, a sign open on the sun, under new ownership, under new management, right? But that creates spin-offs within the economy. Like the guy he hired to do the renovations, he had to hire 2 new people. And then they got money to spend, and they go spending it off someplace else, and that starts something new again, and it's spin-off. So the economy starts to heat up really fast. It's this secondary flow of money that starts up again. It's like an engine starting up again, which would be the banks lending again, starting to lend again, is what's really going to start to push the inflation as we start to enter into this economic recovery. I don't think it's going to go that far, because the inflation's going to pick up enormous, worse than it was in the 1970s, before the Fed starts to panic and says, we got to slow this thing down. And they pull the lever on raising interest rates. That's when I'm expecting some sort of a market crash, But I don't think it's going to be very long-lived, because it's going to strike at the heart of the financial system. See, they don't care about you. Little mom and pop and out there in the small businesses and stuff, they don't care about you. You can go under. But at the heart of the financial system, any little thing happens there, and you'll see the panic buttons going off at the Fed and them wanting to fix it. Because it's the rich side of the world. They care about the rich. They don't care about the poor. You could fall into a ditch and whatever. It takes masses of you having problems within the poor side before they care. They're up in their ivory tower. They got their switches and buttons, and they're going to push those switches and buttons to create money or whatever they have to do if it's affecting them. If it's affecting their finances. But the little guy down there that supports them, they don't care. He can suffer all he wants. They don't care. Not that much anyway. Only when it looks bad on them, it starts to come back on them, makes them look bad, then they care. Because they care about what's called public relations. They all have PR, What's called PR, public relations. Who's the public? The little guy. And what they want to do is they don't want that to reflect bad on them. Then they care. But other than that, they don't care. Really, at their heart, they don't care. They're a beast that doesn't care. But they don't want it reflecting back on them in a personal way to make them look bad, you know. And so we got to fend for ourselves, guys. We are the little guys. We're the peons. We are the serfs and the waifs. And, you know, we got to watch out for ourselves. We got to watch out for our own finances. And so we're living in a very turbulent time. And I got a question yesterday on my channel. You know, he said, what about gold and silver during this deflation? If the Fed decides to come out there and raise interest rates and do a tightening schedule, what's the net effect it would have on gold and silver? What would happen to gold and silver? Well, I'm going to tell you, above and beyond any asset class out there, gold and silver will probably take the least hit. Because it's never got off the floor, really. How far down can it go before it affects mining production cost in a negative way? And you know, these big fat cats out there, they need gold and silver to stay up above mining production costs, so the mines can make a little bit of money, so that they can keep the flow coming, especially silver. They need it to build everything that they're building, that they're selling across, and they got all these different plans and everything, and they're building factories everywhere, and they need silver. They need silver to make solar panels. They need silver to make Apple iPhones. They need it for iPods and earphones and all this junk that we need in North America here, that they're producing in factories in places like Taiwan and China and all through the Middle East and everywhere else. They got these little factories and stuff producing all these goods that we consume. They can't make it without silver. So they need the price high enough so the mines will make some profit. You know? So it's interesting times, but gold and silver are probably your safest of your safe haven assets because they're liquid. The dollar's liquid too. Where should you be right now? You need to have a primary base for your financial security right now, and it needs to be liquid. In other words, some cash, gold, and silver. That's your primary base. Those are your liquid assets. And then, when you got that established, then you can have the other things, you know, like you might want to have some cryptos, or you might want to have some equities and things like that later, you know. But get your primary house in order during these wild, turbulent times. Because if you're all out there in mutual funds and CDs and all this kind of crap, that's right, that's what I said it is, because it's all connected to the dollar, and this system turns over into a hyperinflation, you're going to lose everything if that's all you're into. You know, if you don't have any liquid assets. Now, right now there's a battle going on in the liquid assets between which is best, gold or silver, or a heap of gold and silver, or do you want a heap of dollars? Which one's going to win? You know? And so we're fighting off a deflation because the system wants to deflate. Let's face it, all of these enormous bubbles that they've created in this bubblicious society, they all want to pop, and that's deflate. Fed's the only, stimulus measures and stuff is the only thing that's keeping them popped up. But they can't stop doing that either, or the system will crash. Anyway, very interesting. Let's open up the markets. Let's see right here and take a look at what's going on. Gold price today. It's up. $24.70. It's up to 1,811. It looks like it's went up and found the level again. Looks like it's leveled off. Probably go along sideways for the rest of the day, staying up there above the 1,800 mark. That's probably what it's going to do, I imagine. Silver today, we're up to 27.24. I don't think it's going to drop below 27. I think it's going to go along sideways now again at this new level. I think that gold and silver, I think, are finally starting to make a little move here. This is the second day in a row I've seen this. I haven't seen any big knockdowns. It looks like it's on a charge now. It's breaking above support levels and stuff, and it's breaking to the upside, and it looks like gold and silver are starting to take off now again. Probably the next stop for gold would be 2,000, and the next stop for silver would be passing $30. So that's possibly. Now, don't get too excited, guys. Don't get too excited. But I think that's where we're headed. Because we're on the right track now. You know, we're starting to get on the right track. Let's take a look at crypto. I mean, I don't jump in there early. Some guys see gold and silver go up for one day, and they're like, wow, we're on our way to the moon. No, I don't jump in there real quick, but I think there might be something solid behind this rally starting now. You know? Okay, so I think we could start to test these highs again pretty soon on gold and silver. Let's take a look at the markets here on cryptos, and we're looking at up, 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 up. It's headed towards $3 trillion. Almost 2.4 trillion now. Heading up there. How long, listen guys, how long did it take this to make the first trillion? Started in 2009. It's like years and years and years to make the first trillion. But now we're headed for 3 trillion. Boom, boom, boom. We're just running through the trillions like they're nothing. You know? $1 trillion a week. Here we are, 57,176 for Bitcoin. And all of the other power coins, you know, like Ethereum's a power coin, Binance, Dogecoin's become a power. I can't believe I'm saying that. I remember when Dogecoin first started, you know. It was a joke, guys. It was dog coin. It was a Shiba Inu or whatever, this little Japanese dog, and they're just having fun. It was just, you know, and they made billions of them. Look at this. They're like 64 cents each. Oh my gosh. No, wait. 61 cents each. You know, these are good. Look at Cardano's a great coin. Polkadot, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin. Litecoin's 343. Really, they're doing great. Chainlink, all these top coins. Stellar, you know, these are all top coins. VeChain, Ethereum Classic is a top coin. Solana, Theta. You know, right down the list. You know, until you start to get out. Now, I love Monero. I think that's a great coin. It's up to 419. No, found 422 now. It was just 419. Now it's 422. Here we got the list going out. You know, when you start to get too far out here on the limb, you're safe. You know, up in here, close to Bitcoin. The closer you are, the safer you are. You start to get way down here on the list, way down here. You know, you start to get into unsafe territory. Say I were to move out the page. Let's move right out to page 50. We got coins like, what is this? You know, like coin number 4004, 4000, you know? You start to get way out in the list like that. You're getting into unsafe territory. Yeah, you might make a fortune. You might buy one of those coins way out there on the list and it might go pop way up. Or it might just die and disappear and you lose all your money. Stay in close. Dow Jones today. 34,242 is up 12 points. Crude oil today is 65.11. What was the Dow again? Only 12 points. 34,000 is finally starting to rise. You know, it's unlimited how high the Dow can go if we run into a hyperinflation. Unlimited. Move index today is dropping. And this means that the credit markets are nice and stable right now. Bonds and rates, all the yields are falling today, all the way across the board, but it's not really that big. It's about 2 basis points in the 10-year. 10 years at 1.56, 30 years at 2.23, falling 2 basis points again. And the U.S. dollar is falling today. It's at 91 exactly. Thank you guys for listening to my show. Like and subscribe. And we'll catch you guys in the very next episode. Bye-bye.